When going on an adventure, it is often your interactions with others that make the stories you will tell most. And sometimes, it's not even about making your own stories, but listening to the ones of the people around you. And while I was hitchhiking in Belize, I met a man who had a truly fascinating one. A man who lived for 40 years in the same community, only to be shunned by his friends and family because of a single action.
About a month ago, when I was hitchhiking in Belize with a friend, we got picked up by a Mennonite man who had a very interesting story. So I'm back at his house now to see if he's home. Maybe we could talk a little bit more. There he is. Oh. Hello! Didn't mean to scare you there.
It took a minute of chatting for John to recall who I was, but in less than 5 minutes, he was already inviting me back into his vehicle, and we were off down the road. As a main source of income, John sells the land he owns, and we were going to meet some potential buyers. But as dusk started to settle, I needed a place to sleep. And when John was touring around his lots, I met a couple of his friends that were able to help me out.
So I was off with John looking at some land, and I met a nice South African couple who owned some land around here, and they said I could pitch my tent. So got this little area right over here, my bag there. Gonna throw up my tent there. There's a bar, it seems, at the bottom of the hill. I guess that's where dinner's coming from. You got this gorgeous view with all these mountains around here in the Belizean jungle. That's where I'm spending tonight. The stars are phenomenal. Looking out up into the sky on top of this little mountain just off the Hummingbird Highway. This is a fantastic spot to camp. Ugh. So good.
Well, I made it through the night. It was a good snooze up here next to the jungle. The one issue I would say is the middle of the night. The howler monkeys started up, and they are loud. So it's a good thing I had earplugs.
I spent most of my morning exploring the jungle around me before making my way over to John's. John lived most of his life in a Mennonite community. There are different types of Mennonite communities, but the one he lived in was very conservative. Similar to the Amish, the community is extremely religious, and people wear traditional garb and use absolutely no modern-day technology. Everything is powered by people or horses. John spent almost his entire life in these communities before leaving close to a decade ago. And while I interviewed him about his life and his stories, unfortunately, the audio sucks. But luckily, we have subtitles.
Just with driving a little bulldozer, they put me out of the church. That's something that was not nice. It was a hard life for me.
Yeah, that's a story that I'm really interested in. So you were in this community for 40 years. Not using any technology, and then what was the incident that happened that changed that?
Well, they were very strict. They thought that was the only way to be very strict, that you don't touch the things in there. They had not so much concern about that somebody out of the world do machinery or hired in.
So somebody from outside can do the modern work.
Yes, as soon as you do it with your hand.
Your
that
hand.
was really something. I was right on that side to protect that kind of belief. but always I felt something is not right. I think that's why God allowed me to do a mistake in their eyes.
Yeah.
And they threw me out. For a good while took me away, my wife
Yeah.
and my family.
So, can you explain what that story was? So what happened on that day? You said there was an emergency situation with a bulldozer?
Sometimes, the more conservative groups of Mennonites, although not using modern technology themselves, will hire people from outside the community to do work for them. On one such occasion, an inexperienced driver left a bulldozer on a precarious angle where it was in danger of tipping over onto the young Mennonite men that were working around it. John commented on this danger to the men when he saw it, and then walked out of the worksite with them.
So we walked all back, and nobody saw it from the Mennonites what I did. But I had my plan, because there wasn't other bulldozer beside it. It was an easy thing to do, but they were not able to do it. So.
The easy thing to do John is referring to is using a second bulldozer to pull the one close to tipping to a safe position so people can keep working safely.
So that everything was back in work, the boys stopped surely John Tyler drive the bulldozer. That's for sure.
Oh.
In 2 weeks' time, then the ministers came to my house and he says, "Is that true that you have drive a bulldozer?" They said they would not make a very big issue out of it. I would have come right away and tell them what happens, so that they know I'm not concerned really. So they had a big meeting about it, and I said that maybe I have made a mistake. I think I cannot confess it as right thing, because I don't feel that I did anything wrong. So, but that was a 1.5-year story with the church, and they could not bring me to the same level of thinking as I did. Nobody saw my job.
Yeah.
I did willingly send them someone else something to do, conscience free.
And so it took 1.5 years after that incident before they officially kicked you out of the community.
Yeah, they just thought they put me just the piece off so that I am not anymore a member. Later on, they did excommunicate me. But at that time, they just took off my, so I have no more rights in there.
Wow.
So that came to that, they put me down.
So you lived there for 40 years
In that church.
before they kicked you out.
But I think the most I suffer in my mind is that there's so much people who are, they think that in their church they are so much tied to the church and believe when they are in peace with that church, that's how they make their life through, with that feeling of they're okay. I just last night I went through a story. I listened just to Muslim. That was really interesting how he with a Christian had a conversation. But there I saw how a Muslim, we would think they are so far away because they have not even, they don't believe even fully on the Bible. They have I don't know what but it's another book. In how fast they could talk, so convinced they are right, and maybe they don't know where they stand. And that does not only give me to think about them, how could I live, how far I am blind, think I am right,
Yeah.
where I stand. That's my sadness. How people just walk through this life and maybe we don't know the true what they are believing, what they are doing here. I know there's a purpose that you and me and others are here in this world. God knows it. And what if we are the wrong ones?
Yeah.
And we think we are relaxed, we are with God, and we judge each other.
I spent a bit more time with John before saying goodbye and saw even more what a kind, caring, and genuine person he is. At one point, he took me on a tour of a small medical clinic he helped fund, built on land he donated.
There's nothing that I ask for something back, it's just something to help people around.
Oh, nice. So eventually she's going to become a nurse and hopefully open a clinic here? Wow. Oh, this is a great spot, John. This is fantastic.
And over the time we'd known each other, we shared some laughs.
Well, I didn't see too many of these horse and buggies there, you know?
I know.
I remember you said you have 40 grandchildren? Wow.
Something like that.
Something. And you know all their names?
Never.
But all adventures must come to an end. And as I packed up my tent, I thought about how although he has been dealt some tough hands, John has continued to do his best to be an incredible person who gives back to his community. I'll miss John and my time in Belize, but I know that as I leave, if I ever return, I'll have friends here waiting for me.